Hello, this is Julian Ickham. Uh, Basically, yesterday I was out flyering and collecting donations for a tent city, and out of the blue, someone called me Auslander and gave me a right hook, destroying my teeth, and then made a bunch of comments about Tent City. Now, a little bit about the history of Kitchener. Kitchener used to be called Berlin. Towards the end of World War II, the bank accounts that the Nazis used to relocate was in Kitchener. Kitchener has a history of being pro fascist, but there's also always been resistance to this in history. We just need to look in the 60s and 70s with the Chevron, which was a student paper, which was run by Anti-Imperialist Alliance, which was a Marxist organization against both superpowers, basically saying that you had under Khrushchev two superpowers that divided the world, and that's crap because it doesn't allow this. In the 90s, you had Zundel organizing here in Kitchener at European Sound. You had mass demonstrations for Hitler and against Hitler, and it was the youth through Anti-Racist Action, KW Youth Collective, and this pot, the first youth-run youth drop-in center, that ran the Nazis out of town, which is a whole nother story. Since then, Nazis have been trying to revive this. Now, Nazism isn't just people who wear swastikas. Nazism is the idea of social Darwinism, the idea that those who have wealth have a right to live, and those who do not have wealth have deficient genes. This idea of euthanasia wasn't something that was just put over by Hitler. Hitler made it quite clear that his idea of living space came from Canada. Hitler made it quite clear that the same way that the quote unquote Red Indian was forced to make room, aka genocide, for the white man, so do the Slavs and others who are Untermensch or subhumans have to make room for the pure Germanic race. And basically, the first people that Hitler killed were the poor and disabled. Look at the G4 experiments. That's a perfect thing. And the people of Germany actually stood up when they found out about the G4 experiments, and they actually put a stop to it. So basically, what is Tent City and why hate Tent City, and why do thousands of people say nothing when I get smashed in the face? Yet, if anyone else got smashed in the face, you'd have cops, guns drawn, and everything. I've seen it myself. Example people can do without any money, without any support from the government, without anything, and thrive. In many ways, Tent City is like Cuba. What do I mean by that? Cuba stood up to the big bully, the United States, the same way that we're standing up to the big bully, which is the corporations that have basically destroyed Kitchener during the COVID crisis and turned it from a working class, deindustrialized town into place full of condos and marijuana shops. As for poor people, I'm sure those in power are pretty upset that they don't have like ovens to put us in, but they'll settle for the next best thing, which is making us invisible. Toronto used to call itself Toronto the Great, and they would allow the Orange Order to go down Cork Street, which is a Catholic street, over and over and over again. One need just see the Murdoch show, which is a show today, to see like a washed up version of that. The idea being that Protestants are superior, the Nordic are superior, those who have bad genes, well, that's why they're unemployed. They have bad genes and they need to be destroyed from the gene pool, which is a bunch of crap. So I brought up the example of Cuba. Let's look at what's happening right now in Cuba. Right now, the Cuban Revolution has survived over half a decade of US blockade, of US bombardment, of terrorism, of shortages. And yet, the Cuban Revolution does not just still exist, but it thrives. In the same way, we have been maligned, we have been attacked, we have shortages at tent city, shortages of tents, shortages of food, even shortages of water. Despite the fact that we have these shortages, there is still a spirit of camaraderie. There is still a spirit of the idea that we will win. See, because like what they want to do in Cuba is they want to get the people to turn against the leadership by creating these shortages. The same way what they're trying to do at Tent City, they're trying to divide us by being like, yeah, well, these people ate. I haven't had a chance to eat. These people this, these people that. We always try to make sure there's something for someone to eat. People have bloody well sold their bodies so people have tents. Yes, I'm being serious. Swan, which is a group of sex workers, have provided the tents. People have sold what little they have so people can have food. People have begged downtown. People have begged through emails. And the police come and criminalize us. Yesterday, the police came and just started searching the island for no reason. I asked them what they were doing. They said it was none of their business. After they walked and they intimidated, they left. But we will not be intimidated. And these shortages can be solved. We are right now working with other organizations to deal with these deficiencies. And people realize that the problems at Tent City don't come from the leadership, but rather they come for those who want to destroy Tent City. Well, Tent City will not be destroyed. We will either all have housing or freeze. There's no middle ground. Well, there is a middle ground. We'll set up like a big like there's things we can do that this city will not like. Also, I'd like to point one last thing. So, the indigenous people have put shoes to represent all the native kids stolen in front of the Queen Victoria statue. Because of Octoberfest, they removed those shoes. Well, they can remove the shoes, but they cannot remove the blood of Queen Victoria. Neither here, nor the residential schools, nor through the potato genocide in Ireland. The blood is on their hands, and just because you can remove some shoes does not mean you can remove blood. Thank you very much for your time. please subscribe to this channel. We have poetry, we have discussion, we have all sorts of things. And please go to former Victoria Park and make a donation, whatever you have, because there's a poem once. First, they came after the communists. I did nothing. I was not a communist. Then they came after the Jews. I did nothing because I was not a Jew. Then they came after the trade unionists. I did nothing because I was not a trade unionist. When they came after me, there was no one left to speak. Think about that for a second. And yeah, I am in a lot of pain, but I know what I did was right. And I have faced British strip searches. I really doubt, which is like actually torture. I have been in British jails. I have been in Magobbery. I have been in the hole. I have been beaten, tortured, burned, whatever you want, and I have not been broken. The people of Tent City have been through so much in one day than more people have been through their lives. Do not think a punch will change anything. Thank you very much.